we did witness, taking a look at the match stats here, between these two sides, it really did come alive in the second half because we didn't see too much from Real Madrid in that first half of action. But this is how it all finishes. When it comes to Copa del Rey titles, it is Barcelona who stand ahead of others. 32. This makes it ahead of Athletic with 24, Real Madrid with 20, and Atleti with 10. And now the party begins in Sevilla, and there's still plenty more to play for Barcelona this season. We have Luis Garcia with us, barely keeping his eyes open. It's like 6:30 a.m., probably 7 a.m. in the morning in Kuala Lumpur. I don't think Sid Lowe's realised he's on TV. Oh, there he is.
All
he's
right,
popped
okay.
back up.
Do whatever you want, Sid.
Nathan with us. Hello, Sid. Hello, Nathan. Let's go to you guys first. What a final we've just witnessed, Sid.
Wow. It was pretty wild, wasn't it? And we got that moment as well that we were all kind of worried about getting, that we kind of thought, well, at some point the referee's going to be the protagonist. What we didn't think is it was going to be with 30 seconds to go. The two men that this whole final has been about, and I'm really glad that in the end it wasn't about them. Although that moment will, of course, take a lot of people's attention. Then we were actually sitting pitchside, weren't we, saying it's going to be someone we don't expect.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, to be honest, from my perspective, when it comes down to things like extra time, very rarely is it actually like the key players, and it's never really as good as we hope it would be. Yeah. Sometimes it will be a mistake, but for Koundé, I thought he played well overall throughout the game. And for him to still be on the front foot that late in the game, to be able to sense it, read it, as Ali said, step into the passing lane and to shoot and score like that. Honestly, I love it when defenders do things good, especially scoring winning goals. I was buzzing for that. That was for all of us. That was for all defenders out there that's ever done it. But yeah, it was a great moment for him. And the game itself, as the guys have said, in the second half, it really kicked on. I thought first half Barcelona looked like far and away the better team, in my opinion. Yeah. But something about Real Madrid in that second half felt more like usual, and Barcelona suffered.
And when Real Madrid really took the game to Barcelona, they made Barcelona look nervous for the first time. And Barcelona afterwards were pretty vulnerable in that period in which Madrid were just going and going and going. Which is something we haven't seen.
Sorry, I can only apologise. I can't hear you. The world's biggest speaker happens to be right next to us. I can't hear you anymore.
Just nod and say yes.
Yes, I totally agree, Sid. I totally agree. Yes.
To be honest, Sid, I think if you hold your microphone up just a little bit, he'll be able to hear you a little bit better, because it would be great to continue getting the perspective.
Just basic television, you know?
No. That makes absolutely no difference because it's not. Nadim's not hearing me from the microphone. He's trying to hear me from standing next to me. But it's that
basic
noise
television.
In the stadium. I don't know if I mean, I was going to encourage the camera to pan round. If you see the size of the speaker, which is literally 2 meters from us, you can't hear anything.
It's bigger than Real Madrid. That's all you need to say.
Okay, so we won't ask you what the story is behind the 2 pairs of sunglasses on Lamine Yamal, but I suppose he can do what he wants right now because Barcelona are on course for a treble. This is the first of the trophies that they can win this season. They've done so. They have got the Copa del Rey. I suppose you can count the Super Copa as well against Barcelona against Real Madrid already in their hands. And this, of course, Luis, is a 3rd win against Real Madrid this season. Of course, this one was a lot closer, but it's 3 for 3 for Barcelona right now.
Yes, and it's a big statement. I think that at some point everybody was thinking during the season that this Barcelona was going not to keep that consistency. They had that amazing low where Real Madrid went ahead by 9-10 points, and then they managed to get back on their feet. It was extraordinary actually to see this Barcelona understand that they have to continue like this, playing the same way with that philosophy, with that. A lot of credit we have to give, of course, to Hansi Flick, but definitely arriving to the Copa del Rey final and knowing that Real Madrid is always going to get back, is always going to be ready to give another fight. I think they managed very well the game. I thought at some point that Real Madrid had a little bit more with the changes that Ancelotti put on the second half. A little bit more from Arda Güler, a little bit more from Mbappe, that I think at some point could have the chance. It was a couple of times in offside. No Henry, maybe, or Ibrahim, but definitely you could see that Real Madrid was a little bit more ready to get this trophy. But it was that fantastic shot from Koundé. So I think it's been overall a fantastic game for Barcelona to keep that momentum. Let's don't forget, this was going to be. It's been a very demanding game. and they have a very important game also in the midweek in Champions League. So I think the result is going to give them even an extra boost to continue until the end of the season. 3 wins against your biggest rival, something that you get every single season.
Yeah, and of course, no Robert Lewandowski there, as we just saw him lifting the trophy. They still managed to get it done without him. The game in its entirety, Ale, who stood out to you most from either side?
Wow. Well, that's difficult because it was so different to see the first half to then see what the game became in the second half and then in extra time. If it was just about the first half, I would tell you that Pedri was playing as if he was in the park. Just, hey, I get the ball from you, I give it to you, I'm going to connect this pass, I'm going to connect that pass, I'm going to dribble away from pressure, I'm going to score a great goal. And he just felt like he was playing at a completely different pace than everybody else, seeing a complete different picture than everybody else. And Real Madrid allowed that to happen. Once you get into the second half, and then you see how Real Madrid changed in terms of their personality, in terms of their approach, their line of confrontation, their intensity, their energy, the attacking players actually tracking back and forcing mistakes from players from Barcelona trying to build out of the back, forcing turnovers. I would say a guy who I highlighted as not working all that hard defensively in the Pedri goal, Jude Bellingham picked up the pace in the second half. So did Vini Jr. So did Kylian Mbappe coming off the bench. But if I'm going to highlight somebody from Real Madrid, it's none of those guys. It's Fede Valverde. Let me tell you something. I don't think I could love a man more than I do Fede Valverde as a player. I love me some Pedri, and I've made that very clear. But to have Fede Valverde on your team is having like 2-3 guys doing different jobs, and he's doing it by himself. He covers so much ground and gives this team so much flexibility in terms of what they can do. And so you see the changes that Carlo Ancelotti made that really dramatically changed the game because you have the flexibility to have Fede Valverde. You go play right back. You go play in the middle. You go chase over there. You go cover back there. When you have that, it gives you power as a manager. And give credit to Carlo Ancelotti, who did change the team. And then extra time came and you're thinking, okay, is the momentum with Real Madrid? Is the momentum with Barcelona because of the late goal with Ferran Torres? And both teams had chances in a back and forth to go and win this game. It was a great final.
It really was. What stood out to you, Stevie?
I've got to say Pedri in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked a man amongst boys when actually he's a boy amongst the rest of the men. So, yeah, I can't see past Pedri.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about the momentum shifts, I wonder how that was in the stadium, Sid. I think that music has finally stopped for us because obviously all the momentum went Real Madrid's way in the second half. So for Barcelona to have come... Oh, we've got some more music coming back. For Barcelona to have come through that anyway, what was it like to be in the stadium when it shifted that way?
Yeah, and it really is a question about the stadium, not just about the football, by the way. And it was really, really telling. We were behind the goal that Real Madrid were attacking. And obviously one of the things that happens is that Real Madrid put on Kylian Mbappe. And when you can put on a player that good, you know you're able to change the game. You know that he's able to run at people and make a difference. And then Ancelotti went for that change with Arda Güler and Luka Modric much, much earlier than he makes most changes. And as you say, Kay, in terms of living it in the stadium, Madrid made 2 or 3 chances or half chances. They chased Barcelona's defenders down. All of a sudden it was front foot. All of a sudden the fans at that end started making a noise. And the whole psychology of the game changed. Not just the quality and the technique and the approach and all the rest of it, but the psychology and the mentality changed as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And there was a definite change in belief amongst the players when they're attacking that side as well. I think, as you guys have said, like the way that they put Barcelona under pressure, all of a sudden that build-out wasn't as good anymore. Pedri wasn't having the same impact. Frankie de Jong was losing the ball as well. And Madrid were on the front foot. They were on the front foot and the noise was up. And it felt like, obviously, with us being right in front of the Madrid fans, it felt like we're at the Bernabeu. That's what it felt like. It felt like a sense of inevitability. Then they get the first, they get the second. It's like, well, we've seen this story before. But in fairness to Barcelona, their ability to find that second goal to make it even. And then there was that big moment, that goal in the 96th minute. Honestly, I've never seen a stadium more split in all my life. Barcelona fans adamant it's a penalty. Real Madrid fans adamant that it's not. What's the referee's decision going to be? And I think the question that we asked when it went into extra time, who has more momentum now? And in the end, it was just even. For Barcelona, it wasn't like a big downer from losing a penalty from Madrid. It wasn't a big boost from not having it given against them. But I think overall, like, once Real Madrid settled in, it was a good game of football.
But as you've just said there, the stadium was completely split. There's 2 halves of the stadium. There's a third.
Okay.
Which is the referee.
Yes.
Imagine being that referee, Ricardo de Burgos Bengoechea, who has cried in the pre-match press conference, him and Gonzalo Fuertes in the in the VAR room who have been accused, who are the reason why Real Madrid didn't turn up for the pre-match press conferences and all the pre-match activities, and the reason why there was a threat that they might not turn up tonight. Imagine being in that position, standing. I mean, yesterday you have literally told everybody that it's not just me, it's my family that get abused. And you're standing in front of that VAR screen thinking, wow, whatever happens.
The crazy thing about it for me is I'm with Stephen. I think it was the right decision to not give the penalty in the 96th minute. And the game went the way that it went, and I think the referee made 1 or 2 mistakes, and Barcelona feel aggrieved, Real Madrid feel aggrieved. But at the end of the game, the feeling amongst the Real Madrid players wasn't disappointment, it was anger.
Yes.
A lot of anger toward the referee and the other officials. And I think that is a shame in some ways, because I think overall, the best that they could under these circumstances, and the biggest moment in the game, which would have been the last kick of the game, was the right decision. And I think that's something that should be championed, in my opinion.
It was the right decision in the opinion of the Madrid fans. Obviously, in a way that I mean, I guess the fact that it went Real Madrid's way, in terms of the fallout, because it's Madrid that have lost, had it not gone Real Madrid's way, if that had been the way they lost, although they're angry about other elements of the way the game was refereed, that kind of one big headline decision, I guess in terms of it not being kind of really nasty over the next few days, maybe it went the right way that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, regardless of whatever we've seen about said about the referee and the bigger topic we could talk about, say abusive referees and so on, I think today was a really good game of football.
Oh, it was.
And I think that is ultimately going to be something which we will talk about. Obviously from Real Madrid they could feel aggrieved, but the game of football was the most important thing, and I've very much enjoyed being a part of it.
Oh, well, Nader, I'm glad that you are ending there, because it's your first Clasico for us. So just talk us through the experience and what it was like to actually sit and witness a Clasico pitch side like that.
Hey, not just sitting and witnessing it, I'm sitting alongside Sid. You know, he's the man himself when it comes down to Spanish football history. So from my perspective, as a young guy, I used to watch La Liga all the time. Like my first season really paying attention to La Liga was when Ronaldo was at Barcelona. That's when I started to fall in love with it, and the coverage that was over in the UK, it was growing, and I loved it. On the weekend, I'd be watching that more than Premier League football. And I'll be honest, I had a soft spot for Barcelona. Seeing the likes of Ronaldo, Romario, Rivaldo, you know, Messi, who's my favourite player of my lifetime. It was great to see that from a distance. So to then come over and get a chance to see one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of football, with the stakes like they are now.
Yeah.
It was amazing to be in the city and to see the fans slowly start coming in. At the start of the day, I thought everyone's quite calm. By the time it was 5, 6 o'clock, it was getting a lot louder. There were a few more sort of like incidents where people realised that they'd come here for a reason. Then the game arrives. The difference in culture, the fact that when the anthem's going on, you're seeing Madrid fans really getting into it, the Barcelona fans not as much. You know, there's so much history behind this fixture, and to see the two contrasting styles in terms of how they want to play as well, it was an amazing experience, and I couldn't take my eyes away from it. I felt very privileged to be here, as did Sid, as did pretty much everyone else within that media section, because not only is this two of the biggest clubs in the world, these are some of the best players in world football as well, and they put on a show to the likes where you will not be forgetting about that for a long time.
The other thing here, of course, is that this, in terms of atmosphere, in terms of the size of it, may well be the biggest Clasico there's ever been, in that sense, because, of course, we're talking about two teams that have only played each other in Copa del Rey finals 7 times before tonight, and this is the biggest of the stadiums they've played in. Now, there is a difference, a really big difference between a Clasico in La Liga, where you might get 150 or 200 away fans, and it being today, where it's 27,000 and the rest. Obviously, it's 27,000. Officially, it's more like 35,000 of each set fans, and that creates something really special, because I do say this, obviously, as someone who's seen a lot of Clasicos, and it's easy maybe at times to take it for granted, particularly in those league ones where you think, well, it's the Bernabeu, so they all support Real Madrid, or it's Montjuic or the Camp Nou, so they all support Barcelona. But this is everybody.
Yeah, you could feel the momentum shifts. Yeah. You could see Real Madrid for a section were quiet, then the noise was up, and it was really up. But then you look on the other side, Barcelona, when they have a spell, the flags are out, they're singing their songs. The other teams whistling, the other fans are whistling. Like, it's one of the best atmospheres that I've witnessed myself, and it's the type of game that so many people, you know, who would love to have a career in football, it's a game that they'd love to play in, a Clasico, with a trophy on the line, with that many fans there, and the occasion like this, it was amazing.
Brilliant stuff, guys. But obviously, Luis, for Barcelona, that's 120 minutes of football played, and they'll be massively boosted by this result against their rival Real Madrid. But now they've got to regroup, and they've got Inter to face in the Champions League next. How do you see that going? And do you see any after effects from this game today going into that massive Champions League game for them?
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy to try to bring the players that they played today for most of the game. We saw a very tired Pedri. That is something unusual because we see him running all around the pitch for 12, 13 kilometers. So today was even more exhausting. The pressure, the feeling of being against your rival. But I think that I mentioned before, I think that when you win a game like this one, when you manage to lift a trophy at this moment, and knowing that you are at the top of La Liga, knowing that you just won against your biggest rival and you are very close to win also another trophy in La Liga. When you face against any other team, even it doesn't matter if it's 3-4 days, you're going to be recovered, you're going to be ready because you know that it can be your year. We are talking about a team that no one was expecting from the beginning of the season that could give this back, give that the show that they are putting on the field, these kind of performances, the football that they are displaying, and with the options of winning even 4 trophies. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. They're going to have to figure it out how to restore and recharge the batteries of all those players. But I'm sure the Hansi Flick has got another joker under his sleeve, another card, and he's going to manage those rotations in a fantastic way to try to perform well in the midweek game.
Yeah. Oh, so obviously another La Liga game to come, another Clasico between these two in La Liga. As for Kylian Mbappe, there's been some bad press around him lately because of what we've seen from him of late. Has he redeemed himself in today's game? You know, we've seen boos from the Madridistas when he's come up on the screen and moments like that. What does today's game do for him?
Well, it's a step forward, but they lost the final. This is about winning. And Real Madrid is about winning. And you could see Carlo Ancelotti when he was walking through the Guard of Honor by Barcelona. He went straight to Hansi Flick. Good game. And I'm going straight out this way. Because Real Madrid don't play for second place. And that's something that I think Kylian Mbappe needs to understand as well. And so while he may think and feel good about himself and that he came in and made a difference, well, yeah. If you're considered to be one of the best, if not the best player in the world, and you're coming off the bench, you're expected to make a difference. And he did. He did make a difference. And he was active. And he was chasing around defenders. And so here's where I have an issue. Because most people would say, hey, that's good work by you, Kylian. What I'm saying is, how come today you were active defensively? How come today you were willing to chase? How come today you were pressing people? So you're capable of doing it. You just choose to do it whenever you want to. That is damning evidence. So while you may shape this K as a positive for Kylian Mbappe, I shape it as, so there's more to give from Kylian Mbappe if you're a Real Madrid fan. This is closer to what you think you were getting. A player scoring a big goal in a big game and being active over the course of the 45 minutes that he was in the second half and then the extra 30 minutes. That should be the expectation. That should be the standard, and he shouldn't drop from there. When he drops from there, that's when we get critical of Kylian Mbappe because we know his best is better than most. His best is better than most in the world. So it's noticeable when he's not playing at his best.
And with that in mind, Sid, as we get the final thoughts from you guys at the side of the pitch today, what does it do going forward for these two teams? Because there is season left still to play in La Liga, and there is, of course, that other Clasico still to come.
Yeah, and that Clasico does mean, of course, that the league title race is not necessarily run. Barcelona have a 4-point lead. If Real Madrid were to win that Clasico, it'd be 1 point. Now, not necessarily, because they've both got one more game before that. There's Valladolid and Celta de Vigo to come. Harder for Real Madrid than for Barcelona to play Celta than it is to play Valladolid. But then the 3 games after the Clasico, I think, are slightly easier for Real Madrid than Barcelona. So if Madrid were able to come out of that Clasico with a point as the gap, I think they will believe that there's a chance to win the league. That said, I think tonight damages that. I think had they won tonight, they would think to themselves, not just, hey, we feel stronger, but Barcelona will start having doubts now.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think for the way that Real Madrid sort of reacted in that second half, I think you can take something away from it, and I don't think you'll necessarily talk about it out in the open to the press, because that's not necessarily the culture of Real Madrid to accept finishing second or to lose in a final. But they've gone toe-to-toe and they've seen that they've made Barcelona suffer, and I think in reality, when that game does come up, as far as from what I can see, like, the Madrid DNA is not to believe that things are done until they're done. You know, they'll have a belief that they can do it. They'll be watching Barcelona's games, obviously, but they believe they can win that Clasico. And they've had more magical moments than what we could even expect to see between now and the end of the season. So yes, it's a big blow for them today. For Barca, it's a big lift to be able to hold that trophy up. But this is never over with Real Madrid, especially domestically.
So, Nadem, you're in one of the most beautiful cities in Spain, sunny Sevilla. It's Sunday tomorrow. What have you got planned?
I'm going to try my best to go to the airport. I've got a 7 a.m. flight, and I'm going to appear somewhere else in the ESPN multiverse. Tell me where.
As Kay well knows, there is only one. As Kay well knows, there is only one plan at this point, isn't there, Kay? It is 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Nadim's got a 7 o'clock flight. You know what this means, don't you? This means you've got to go through the night. There is no point in even trying. There is no point in even trying to sleep now.
You're a bad influence. I have no intention of doing that.
An all-nighter. Look at Sidlow. What a bad influence he is. Luis Garcia's done an all-nighter for us as well.
Yes, he has.
Look at that.
Yeah. We've actually seen from darkness, from night, to actually the dawn and the new morning with Luis Garcia.
It's true. Look at that.
All-nighters are plenty here on ESPN FC, and you will be seeing Nathan's lovely face tomorrow on our FA Cup coverage as well. Never mind Barcelona not getting a rest ahead of that Inter game. Nathan straight back into it.
Es una derrota digna, pero es una derrota. Pero no sé si la derrota le hace tener más esperanzas que en los últimos días.
¿Esperanza de qué?
De seguir en el club después de las críticas que ha habido.
He dicho, puedo seguir, puedo parar. Esto será un tema de las próximas semanas, no de hoy.
Me gustaría que analizara la actuación del árbitro y un poco todo lo que ha pasado al final. Gracias.
No quiero hablar del árbitro.
Y yo te quiero preguntar, de cara a lo que viene, que todavía tienes que pelear por una liga, ¿cuánto te preocupa que estas sanciones puedan afectar a la liga?
No sé, porque hay que ver qué ha pasado, no lo sé qué ha pasado. De todas maneras, hay que esperar, preparar. Ahora descansar 2 días, ahora tenemos tiempo para preparar los 2 partidos importantes contra Celta y contra Barcelona a la vuelta y seguir compitiendo hasta el final.
What happened tonight? It was a game that changed so much. You didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah, I think we had the game under control for all of the first half, and we knew that we had to expect Real to come out more aggressive for the second half. And I think at times we didn't deal with it very well. So they got back in the game, they took the advantage. But I thought we looked good, and there was never a moment in my head that I doubted the final outcome.
But precision is lacking a little bit in some moments of the game. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. We ended up scoring 3 goals against Real Madrid, and we won the trophy. So I don't think you judge finals on performances. You judge them on, are you a winner or are you a loser? And today we're on a good side, and that's the most important thing. You know, in the summer I didn't expect to win any more trophies in my life. I have 2 more already, and I'm going to do everything to bring 2 more home this season for this great club. So I'm just very grateful and very thankful for what I'm experiencing this season, and it's a really great adventure. Like we talked about the other day at the training ground. I'm getting the adventure of my life, so I'm just really grateful for that.
No, at the moment, I think for today it's also when I saw after the match, when I saw the celebration about the fans and also our team and the staff, everyone, and also the club, it was really unbelievable. So they deserved it, and I'm really happy about that. That we have this situation. It was a huge win tonight, and of course the second half was Real did it really good, but at the end. Jules, no, he in the extra time he saved 2 chances from Real, and he made the goal. And it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable.
So there's some of the reaction. I just want to start with some of the Real Madrid reaction, because obviously at the top of the show we've talked a lot of Barcelona. With what Carlo Ancelotti has had to say here, we also saw red cards at the end of the game for Lucas Vázquez and Antonio Rudiger. It felt like when he was asked that first question about his own job that he might know something we don't, or is he just trying to deflect that question away right now and seeing it as not important?
I guess before you accuse me of deflecting this question away, it sounds like you might know something that we
I
don't know.
No, it just felt no, not to you guys.
No, it sounds like a manager who is not in the mood to be answering tricky questions that have sort of a ulterior motive or a second meaning to it. I'm not going to play this game with you, is what Carlo Ancelotti is saying. If you ask me a straight up question, I'll answer it. If you're going to try to get tricky with your questions, I'm moving on with my life.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to talk about his future right now as it stands. Obviously, he doesn't want to talk about the referees as well. You can understand that. But those red card sanctions, that's what could be worrying for Real Madrid in what's ahead right now.
Well, and as we know, okay, and we have reported time and time again and discussed time and time again, what takes precedent here is the famous referees report. And so whenever that comes out, then we'll know exactly why the red cards happen. Well, we know why Antonio Rudiger got a red card, because he can throw a bottle of water really far. But we don't know exactly what happened with Lucas Vázquez and the reports of Jude Bellingham. We don't know. And so we don't know what their suspensions will be and how this will affect the run-in for Real Madrid in what the next games, if you're thinking about it, and what the suspensions could potentially mean. Celta, and more importantly, El Clasico at Barcelona.
So Palace through to the FA Cup final. Alexis got some reaction from after the game.
For you, in your opinion, what was the difference between the two sides?
I think they were more concentrated, more focused than us. I think in the beginning, both teams were a bit, on edge, and we're playing it safe. And I think for most parts of the game, we had control of the game, but, we know how dangerous they were on counter-attacks, and we left ourselves open in the first half to be able to get countered, and we know that they're dominant when it come on to counter, and they took their chance and made it difficult for us in the beginning.
What were some of the areas that you guys were looking to exploit today, and how you feel you did?
We were looking to exploit their high line. They're really good with the ball, but if we can nick the ball off them every once in a while, we figured that we'd play the ball in behind because we have some fast guys up front. So again, I think we executed our game plan pretty well, and I think that's why we won today.
And I just spoke to Leon Bailey from Aston Villa as well, and he said that one of the things that separated the two teams, that you guys definitely know what it's like to defend and hold that line for a long time, and that showed today. When it was you at the back soaking up all that pressure, what was the plan? What were you guys saying to each other as the minutes were ticking away?
Just 10 more minutes, and I think we said it, 10 times today, So, again, I think we like to defend. I think that's something that a lot of teams don't like to do. But I think, we held our line. We tried to clear everything that came, and I think the shutout was deserved today. And
finally, I have to ask you about Ebe Richie's goal, because, oh my days, the absolute audacity to try that from outside the box again. But it's typical of him, isn't it? What a special player.
If you know Ebbs, is not really that audacious, He's done some way crazier things. But, we really appreciate Ebbs. Like you said, it was a banger. So hopefully we have a few more of those in the final, and hopefully we can lift the trophy.
Welcome in Julien Laurent, pitch side for us. Jules, I'll tell you what, Palace thoroughly deserved that.
Yeah, completely. They were outstanding from start to finish. We said before the game, didn't we, the back five of Palace. Villa usually struggled this season to play against that back five with the ball, without the ball, and it was the case tonight. Then Villa never really found the solution. Emery never found the solution either. And Glasner on the other side had all his game plan really spot on again, but with Palace what they're going to do. So I was really disappointed by Unai Emery's game decision during the match to start with, and a tactical decision, but also at the start of the game, nothing really that he tried was working. But for Palace, so great afternoon. The fans are amazing. Eze, Mateta, Lacroix at the back was outstanding. And what about Wharton? The kid has just come back from injury not that long ago. He bossed that midfield today.
3-0 almost compliments Villa. Palace could have got more here, and they were so dominant today.
They outclassed Villa in every department from the beginning of the game. We said that they were going to be favourites, Villa, from the beginning. But the way that Crystal Palace dismantled Villa, soaked up all of the pressure that they had to offer, and they picked their moments brilliantly defensively. They got their distances right, and as soon as it was that time to pounce and win the ball back in the middle of the field, they did it brilliantly. And then they were just clinical at the other end. An absolutely outstanding performance from Crystal Palace.
I thought, to Jules' point, that you kind of know what Crystal Palace were going to do. Well, that's taken absolutely correctly. Mateta is just too good, too strong physically for Aston Villa. Eze, how do you play against Eze? He plays like he's on the playground, and you're never quite sure what's going to come from him other than it's going to be really, really good. So how do you set up a game plan for those two? I thought, and then to Kieran's point, I thought Palace defended wonderfully well. And then you saw from Palace high pressure in midfield, won the ball back, couple of opportunities that created really good chances for Crystal Palace that somehow Aston Villa just weren't able to cope with. Weren't able to cope with the pressure in midfield when it came. Weren't able to cope with the ball into the channels over the top for Mateta. Weren't able to cope with just the brilliance of Ancelotti. And as a result, Crystal Palace won comfortably, deservedly. And you're right, this quite easily could have been 6.
Jules, where was that spark from Villa? We were talking about the fact that they'd had 24 hours extra to prepare. They just seemed flat right from the off today.
Yeah, I really believe the game plan was wrong. We said it at half-time. When you play against Palace and that back five, the centre of the pitch is congested. You've got 3 centre-backs plus the 2 defensive midfielders ahead of that 3 centre-backs, right? If you don't have that pace wide, if you can't go 1-on-1 or 2v1 wide, you're never going to do anything. So Asensio, Watkins hardly touched the ball. I mean, I looked at the stats for Asensio. It's embarrassing. Asensio won the Champions League 3 times. He's a Real Madrid player. He's a Spanish international. Today, he was embarrassing. And Villa never really got going because wide, for too long, they were inefficient. And that's why it was so easy for Palace. They had everything in front of them. We said that Wharton was outstanding, but the midfield was great. Kamada too. The 3 centre-backs were playing in their sofa. There was no threat at all. And then Sarr, and then Eze, and then Mateta, really. And I'm sorry, Tielemans and Pau Torres, 2 really experienced players, top players for Villa, losing the ball on the first 2 goals is not acceptable. And that's, at the end of the day, this is the difference. The big players for Palace won the game. The big players for Aston Villa really lost the game because those 2 mistakes by Tielemans and Torres are not acceptable at this level.
Now, what happened to Villa, Kieran? Where was that drive, that ambition today?
I think the only thing I could probably put it down to is when you're competing on all fronts, you know, Champions League every week, trying to push for a European spot. You've got the FA Cup run. It can take a lot out of you. It can take a lot out of you. I've been there, and you do run out of legs, and then that's when you have to really rely on your individual quality. And I think that those individuals that they could rely on just dipped in form a little bit at the last minute, and it's a shame because this Villa side for me, they're as good of a Villa side as I've seen probably since the early 2000s. I would say when you had the James Milners, the Ashley Youngs. A scary Villa side that you didn't want to come up against. That's what this Aston Villa team reminds me of. And they've just run out of gas a little bit at the last minute. And it's a shame because, it would have been great to have seen them lift the trophy. I'm sure Unai Emery will be devastated. It looks like their European journey for next season is going to be tight as well, with all the other teams competing for the top 4 or 5. And yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing end to their season.
Ending his goal drought. It was his first goal since December. It's his 10th of the season, and it made the difference for Chelsea today as they took advantage of the likes of City, Villa and Forest, all in FA Cup action, and got themselves into a nice spot in the table as they look to try and secure themselves some Champions League football for next season. So what stood out to you from today, this Chelsea performance, Stevie?
To be honest, what stood out was that Cole Palmer once again disappeared, to be honest, because Chelsea didn't play particularly well in this game. Yes, they huffed and puffed and Everton just sat. Basically, it was almost like they were playing for a 0-0 draw from the get-go. But Cole Palmer, this has got to be a worry for Chelsea. A guy who was so devastating, so good, so much in charge, just the man for this team. Since Christmas pretty much has absolutely gone missing. And I'm not quite sure whether I think Maresca can solve the problem, because clearly Cole Palmer himself can't solve the problem. And Maresca's talking about, he's doing a good job for us and he's doing this and he's working hard. He's going to need to do a lot more than that. He's going to need help. And I don't think Maresca has got it in his armour to help him.
Nico Jackson, his first goal in 12 games. It had been quite the drought for him. Hadn't scored since December. First of all, just from a striker's perspective, what's it like when you get that goal when it's been such a long wait for one alley?
I think actually you could have gone on with your question. So for a striker that doesn't score goals, how does that feel?
You're my friend, you're my colleague. I'm not going to go there.
But it feels great. It's relief more so than anything. The immediate reaction is relief. As a striker, you live for that ball hitting the back of the net. And when you're not doing it, and when it becomes multiple games, and then multiple games give on even more games, and they just build up upon each other and you just can't find the momentum, you can't find the opportunities. This is how it actually works out. Initially, you'll have the chances. Now you're missing those chances, right? When you get on a drought, the chances begin to disappear as well. And now you're thinking, well, now it's not even about missing the chances. Now it's I'm not even getting opportunities. So you feel like you're never going to score again. And mentally, it is so taxing. Mentally, it's so draining because this is what you live for. This is what keeps you going. And this is what you are evaluated upon, is scoring goals. So the good thing about it is that his reaction, as soon as he got the ball, was on the turn. I'm not hesitating. I'm just putting my laces through this ball, and I'm hoping to find the corner. And he did that. It shows me a player who says, you know what? I'm not going to try to get cute. I'm not going to try to bend it. I'm not going to try to find an extra pass. I'm turning, and I'm hitting. And I'm hoping that this goes in the back of the net. And once it does, you can breathe again.
Yes.
Instinct.
Yeah?
That was it. It's instinct.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'd like to mention about Cole Palmer as well as straight, it's the same regardless of what position you play in. You know, when you can't do your job properly, we all go through the same thing, regardless of what position it is. And the one big mistake that Maresca has to speak to Cole Palmer about is his position. You know, when Cole Palmer was creating all these chances, scoring all these goals, he was picking the ball up in the final third, 25, maybe 30 yards from goal, and creating. Now, and particularly today, he's coming back to the halfway line and picking the ball up. So he's never going to be able to do what he was doing when he was successful, when he's in the wrong part of the field. And that's down to the coach and the coaching staff to make sure that they get him where he should be, and then obviously they have to get him the ball.
But that tells me that's anxiety. That tells me is, look, I'm not getting the ball here in the areas in which I'm most effective. Now I got to go chase the game. And you maybe think as a player that you're helping, you're actually hurting. You're hurting the team and you're hurting yourself because now you were the natural outlet for Chelsea and have been over the course of the season. And they're looking for you to be over there in a more advanced position. Coming over here doesn't help us. Enzo can do this job. But you know what else? And you know what Enzo cannot do? Is over there. Over there is when you can make a difference. But as a player, you get anxious and you want to have value to the team. You want to help. And by trying to help, you're doing too much. And now you're hurting the team.
Yeah, which certainly aren't. Relegation confirmed for them now. It means all three promoted teams relegated from the Premier League for a second successive season. All three confirmed with 4 games to go as well. Meanwhile, at the other end of the table, Newcastle in third as it stands right now. Chelsea, with their win today, into the top 5 with some of the likes of City, as mentioned, Forest and Villa out in FA Cup action today. But this is how the table is looking right now. Chelsea ahead of Nottingham Forest on goal difference, and obviously Manchester City a point ahead of them right now. So it's that time of the show. Sometimes it changes, and as facts change, sometimes opinions do. Where are we standing right now on who finishes top 5?
Well, I think the top 4 right now are all going to be going to the Champions League. And I think it's one from Chelsea, Forest and Villa. I previously I didn't think it was going to be possible for Chelsea, but Forest are looking a little dodgy. Aston Villa looking a little leggy, as Kieran said. So maybe Chelsea can get results even though they're not playing well. But I can't hang my hat on any of the 3 of them, to be honest. I'm just going to say that one of those 3 will join the top 4 right now.
Is that what you're going to say, Ali? One of those 3 it'll be?
No, I'll say Nottingham Forest. And the reason I hang on to Nottingham Forest is because of the schedule. You look at who they play, and part of the remaining games include a nice mix of West Ham and Leicester. Look, those are games that you should be winning if you're Nottingham Forest, and indeed you're going to be getting into the top 5. As compared to what the schedule is for others, it feels like they have more of an inside position. Plus, they have a game in hand again in comparison to Chelsea, who I think is going to be the direct rival here. I'm taking Forest. It's what I said earlier in the week. I'm going to hang on to that right now because I haven't seen enough from Chelsea to really sway me in the other direction.
It's been a long one. We're here on extra time.
Yep.
Ali and Stevie have stuck around for it.
Yep.
We've seen a lot going on today. A lot of big games.
Is Luis with us still?
Luis stayed awake for like a 24-hour stretch.
What's he doing in Kuala Lumpur? Eh?
He's always on his travels. isn't he?
He gets everywhere, doesn't he?
Stevie, I'm sure it's not for free, okay?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Also.
I'm sure it's not charity work.
Now, this question came up in the show, Stevie, and I saw you asking when Barcelona are actually playing Inter.
Right.
How difficult will it be for Barcelona playing against Inter 2 days after playing 120 minutes is the question.
Right. Well, it's probably longer than 2 days, to be honest, because it's Wednesday they play. But I think the key is that they actually won this game. I think that's huge. That makes a huge difference. Because had they lost this game, then it's not so much your body, because you're going to do the same, whether you win or lose, you're going to do the same things to recover as you would normally do. It's the soul, it's what goes on inside you and inside your brain that really, in my opinion, is the biggest thing to recover from. So the fact that they won is huge. That means that they will be in way better condition than had they lost this game.
Yeah, the next couple of days are going to be about regeneration, of course, and that would have been the case had they lost the game as well. But the difference, to Stevie's point, is that when they go into this regen session, it's going to be it's going to be all excitement, and it's going to be that sort of positive energy, and that also has healing powers. The fact that we're laughing, we're enjoying ourselves, we are enjoying each other's company, we enjoy coming to work. It's like coming to work with Stevie. It has healing powers, and so that is going to be, I think, to your point, Stevie, that is the most critical aspect of this. Physically, they have enough of a staff to get the massage therapies. They're going to get all the sort of hot bath, cold bath, all sorts of treatment, and they're going to be ready to go. But mentally, where's this team going to be? And of course, winning makes a huge, gigantic difference.
Massive difference. Can confirm that is the case when you see Stevie at work whenever you come in.
It's a healing power.
It really is. Okay, I'm glad this is one that has come up, because obviously you guys differed a little bit to our commentators on this. We saw Modric screaming at Brahim for letting Koundé intercept his pass. Who was really at fault there?
Well, if we're going to pin it on somebody, you've got to say Modric. You know, because the ball he's playing, in my opinion, he's looking to set, who was it, Fran Garcia?
Brahim
Diaz. He's looking to set Brahim Diaz away, or he should be looking to set Brahim Diaz away that way. He should be looking for Brahim Diaz coming from there back towards the middle of the park to get the ball. I just don't think that at all. And so the fact that there's not enough juice on the pass and it gets intercepted is, in my humble opinion, 100% really down to Modric. Now, yes, could Diaz have maybe realised a little quicker that the pass wasn't getting there? Maybe yes, but I'm afraid the majority of this is absolutely down to Modric for the pass.
And it's harder to say this about Luka Modric, but even beyond the execution of the pass that we've already established did not have enough pace behind it, it's the decision by Luka Modric to play that pass in that moment of a game. You're playing a square ball right on top of your 18-yard box that if it gets intercepted, you're in trouble, because all the momentum of the intercepting player, in this case Jules Koundé, is him going towards goal, and you have no way to stop it. So the decision from Luka Modric, I thought, was wrong. The execution, I thought, was wrong. And then Brahim Diaz could have resolved the issue if he had come towards the ball, but he, like Stevie, was expecting that, okay, we're getting out on the counter, I'm starting to run this way, away from the ball and away from the pressure. I don't want to bring more pressure towards us, I'm running away from it, and I'm thinking this ball is actually going to be played with enough pace to get to me. It was never the case.
Okay. Ale, how much did the bullying of the referee work in favour of Real Madrid? In the end, did it help them achieve anything?
I think there were refereeing mistakes in this match that I don't think have anything to do with the quote-unquote bullying of the referee, and not just specifically this referee or this VAR official, just in general. This has been going with Real Madrid over the course of the season. It just happens to be that this was the one referee that was crying in a press conference, and obviously that brings attention. And the VAR official was also saying, well, we're going to have to do some things to change some things, which is sort of a general statement into nothing, but it did create this conspiracy theory that the referees were going to do something against Real Madrid. Truth be told is that there were a couple of penalties that should have gone against Real Madrid that did not. The grab by Dani Ceballos on Pau Cubarsí should have been a penalty. And then, of course, when you're talking about Rudiger kicking or taking the leg from under Ferran Torres late in the second half, that should have been a penalty. So I suppose if you want to go down the path of the conspiracy theories, then maybe it did make a difference. But if you really thought this has some sort of influence in how these games are called, then look no further than the referee being able to stand up in front of the VAR screen and make the correct call late in a match. And that's what we want to see.
Do you know what we don't want to see? Utter and complete classlessness from Real Madrid at the end of the game with the players throwing stuff in the field and running on and complain. I mean, they were complaining the whole game, particularly Vasquez. He never stopped complaining. Right at the end of the game, after he got subbed, he's running on. Him and Vinny's running on to the field. I mean, it smacks of a lack of class. And actually, this whole final, that's what Real Madrid have shown, that they lack class. Are they a huge club? Yes, they are. But I'll tell you what, they are not half tainting their reputation by the actions that not just the players, but the board as well are doing, and the TV station. I mean, it has to stop.
If I may say something to that, Stevie, is that who are the consumers of Real Madrid TV? Well, Real Madrid fans, of course, and it has to be hardcore Real Madrid fans to tune into this. And if every week you keep feeding this conspiracy that all the referees are against us, and you put together highlight packages of, look at all the mistakes that you're making, even if you consider yourself a reasonable fan, if every week this is the information that you're being fed,
propaganda.
By the end of the show, you're like, yeah, they are against us. They are against us. And so do the players. Yeah, they are against us. You're peddling out, feeding this conspiracy beast time and time and time again, and the club doesn't benefit from it. The players don't benefit from it. The fans don't benefit from it. I suppose Real Madrid TV benefits from it because they garner quite a bit of attention. But beyond that, I don't think this helps Real Madrid in the bigger picture whatsoever, because they come across as a team who's whining and complaining and whining and complaining. Think about teams like on the other end of the table. Think about Alavés, Espanyol. Real Madrid is complaining? Real Madrid is complaining about not getting calls? Really? They feel so aggrieved that they are the ones complaining. What about us? What about the little guys? How do you think we feel? I think Real Madrid has to be above this, and it would be my recommendation, not that anybody cares, but I'll give it anyways, to stop this. This doesn't help anybody, and it certainly doesn't help Real Madrid.
Crystal Palace, discuss for once.
Well, Crystal Palace showed that you can win games of football by doing it the old-fashioned way. That's what they did in this game against Aston Villa. They did it the old-fashioned. They didn't go out and try and show how great they were at playing open attacking football, or how good we are, how good our goalkeeper is with his feet, or how good we are at passing the ball out the back. No, they played to win the game, and they did what they had to do to win the game. And so, particularly for any of the teams that are going to come up from the Championship into the Premier League next year, have a look at what Palace do. Have a look at what Forest have done this year. And if you want to stay in the Premier League, you need to think about copying that model. Not the Manchester City model of all open and passing the ball all over the place. Because all these teams that came up tried to do that, and they've gone straight back down because of it.
Okay, last question. Realistic expectations for Wrexham during their first season back in the Championship for 43 years. What's it going to take just to stay up in such a competitive league? It really is an understatement though, isn't it? Because the Championship is such a tough league to play in.
Right, so what they've done from getting into the league and then getting these promotions back to back, what they've done is the players they've brought in have been the better players for that league. And that's why they've managed to be at the top of the table. And that's why they managed to get promoted. So to go in the Championship, I think it's unrealistic to think they can go from the Championship next season into the Premier League. But I think what they have to do is do exactly what they've been doing and sign players who are at the top end of the, in ability-wise in the Championship, in order to make sure that at the very least they stay in the Championship and then build from there.
Welcome, Wrexham, to the Championship, because it looks like Middlesbrough are staying there a little bit longer after today's result.
Well, Kay, maybe you should answer the question. What's it going to take? Because you know full well.
There's a war of attrition, the Championship. I think it's going to be our 9th season that we're heading into now, because things didn't go Middlesbrough's way today. It is tough. It is long. Anyone can beat anyone. That's not even a cliche, and it is not easy. It is not an easy league. But Wrexham, welcome. We welcome you. You're going to have to buy some Premier League quality players to try and get yourselves out of there. But I wish you the best of luck.
You sound like you're in pain about that, Kay.
That will do it for the latest edition of ESPN FC. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again.